Welcome to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI, your home for the politically homeless, streaming live at KVI.com and the KVI app. If you want to be part of the most dangerous show on the airwaves, call or text the Warrior Injury Law Studio line at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. Coming up this hour, the Warlord of the Deadly Autonomous Zone is sentenced, but not for anything involving the Deadly Autonomous Zone. We'll tell you all about it, but first, time for your daily dose of adrenaline.
You want me to stick this into my heart? Are you f***ing nuts?
Yesterday, King County prosecutors declined to pursue felony charges against the 33 Antifa and anti-Israel activists arrested last spring after occupying and vandalizing the University of Washington's interdisciplinary engineering building, causing more than $1 million worth of damage. Instead, the King County Prosecuting Attorney's Office filed 33 counts of criminal trespass in the first degree, which is a gross misdemeanor. Would you like to know what the maximum sentence is for a gross misdemeanor? 364 days in jail and a $5,000 fine. Do you imagine in your wildest dreams that any of these activists will actually get hit by that? Now I want to ask you another question. If a group of Donald Trump supporters occupied a building at the University of Washington and caused over $1 million worth of damage, do you think it would have taken 300 days for these charges to be filed? You know the answer to that. Let me ask you another one. Do you think they would have just gotten a gross misdemeanor, or do you think they'd probably be sitting in the electric chair right now based on King County and its certain leanings? You and I both know the answer to that. How about another one for you? What if the KKK showed up on campus and the KKK did what these Antifa and anti-Israel activists did? You think for a second they wouldn't have had the entire book thrown at them? Well, there's something fascinating that also happened yesterday. I also got back a public disclosure request. The public disclosure request I got along with statements from King County Prosecutor's Office. Now, I got to say, they did a good job outlining everything in this document, but I know that this is colossal BS. This is colossal BS. Lisa Mannion, who's the King County prosecutor, spent past couple of years telling us how much she was doing to combat hate crimes. Well, when people write anti-Semitic messaging on the side of a building, isn't that a hate crime? This is one of the reasons hate crimes are so stupid. Because for them, they say, we got to get to the motivation. We got to question the motivation. For me, I don't care. You vandalized a building. I don't care what you wrote. You vandalized a building. That is a crime. When I got back all these documents, I'm reading them and I'm getting more and more upset. The same probable cause documents were done for every single one of these lunatic activists. And it gives us some insight into what happened that day. What did we know before this? On May 5th, 2025, a whole bunch of radical Antifa and anti-Israel activists stormed the building, the engineering building at the University of Washington, because they don't like Boeing, because Boeing makes war equipment and Boeing does business with Israel. And Boeing sponsored this engineering building. They locked all the doors, barricaded all the doors, and in the process, caused over $1 million worth of damage to brand new engineering equipment. They were all arrested on the spot, but no charges, no charges. Months go by, months go by, months go by, no charges. And so far, we've had this game of the King County Prosecutor's Attorney's Office blames the University of Washington Police Department, and the University of Washington Police Department blames the King County Prosecutor's Office. After reading these documents, everybody is to blame. The University of Washington blew the investigation, and the King County Prosecuting Attorney's Office refuses to prosecute. I called multiple attorneys this morning, the majority of whom are related to me, because I am not a lawyer. But I want to go through every single line of this probable cause document and cite all the charges I could. What is the King County Prosecuting Attorney's Office saying? Well, We don't have any video inside the building, so we can't prove who did what. Okay, 33 people sealed that building shut. It was just them inside. The equipment wasn't broken beforehand. It was broken afterwards. The group they're a part of took responsibility on social media for the damage. They bragged about it on social media. They just said we don't deserve to be punished for it because they had it coming. And yet you're saying you can't prove this? You found them in the rooms they were causing the damage of. You found them on the floors where they caused the damage. You're telling me for every murder, for every felony for that matter, that the King County Attorney's Office prosecutes, they got video of it, catches them in the act every single time? You and I both know that's not the case. Let's go through these charging documents together. And what's funny about this, I don't think I've ever used the printer this much in our office before. I've got papers coming up the wazoo around here. So I'm just going to pick one.
I know, it's like I thought John Carlson's back. Yeah. Wow, look at this.
Look at all the stuff I got here. I got papers everywhere.
Maybe Kirby.
There you go. Yeah, I can't do this with all the screens. It's just easier to actually print this stuff. Sorry, trees. Oh, the activists are going to be mad at me now. I killed some trees. Here we go. On May 5th, 2025, at approximately 16:53 hours, that's 4:53 in the afternoon, University of Washington Police Department patrol units responded to the Interdisciplinary Engineering Building at 4000 East Stevens Way Northeast for a reported demonstration. The IEB, which had only become operational in April, it's a month old, less than a month old, had been the subject of pro-Palestinian advocates' ire due to the fact that it was partially funded by the Boeing Company. Moreover, the building included a mural of a Boeing 777 on a Boeing 777 on one wall, and the second floor was named the Boeing Landing. The IEB's business hours for the spring academic quarter are 8 a.m. to 1700 hours, which is 5 p.m., Monday through Friday. At approximately 5:10, Lucy Zern, that's whose documents I have, but they're all exactly the same, was among the group of demonstrators gathered outside the building. Some demonstrators, dressed in all black and wearing face coverings, began to enter the building after business hours through a propped open door. Right there, before they've done anything else, here are the charges you can already hit them with. Conspiracy and criminal trespass, which is what they did get hit for. Conspiracy. RCW 9A.28.040. The different classifications depend on what kind of events they actually committed. At approximately 1711 hours, UWPD patrol officers observed motor vehicles arriving and offloading large pieces of plywood, metal barriers, and supplies. Stop right there. We have video of this. You now have co-conspirators who drove away afterwards who you have not charged. They were part of this. They were not charged. Why not? Their license plates are in full view because they helped with this insanity. At 1745 hours, university employee Curtis Takahashi was in his third floor office preparing to leave for the day. Takahashi walked down 2 floors to the first floor via the north staircase, attempting to exit the building through the main entrance. As he exited the staircase, Takahashi observed furniture piled up by the main doors. He walked up to the doors and realized they were completely barricaded with furniture. All right, hang on a second here. Barricading the main doors with furniture. Possible charges are malicious mischief, RCW 9A48070.080 and .090. Unlawful imprisonment, RCW 9A40040, a Class C felony. A person was prevented from leaving the building. That's already a felony. Takahashi then looked outside and noticed some flags waving and many students dressed in black. Takahashi returned to the staircase, went down a floor to the ground level, and attempted to exit the building. However, the exit door was glued shut. Same charges. Those are the exact same charges. Oh, and vandalism on top of that. Vandalism as well. He pushed on the door several times in an attempt to force it open, but was unsuccessful. Takahashi decided to return to the third floor and entered his office. There he sent a text to the dean of the College of Engineering, Dan Ratner, asking if something was going on at the IEB. Ratner replied, "Yes, we are on it," and asked if Takahashi was still in the building. Takahashi then called Ratner and asked how he could get out of the building. While speaking with Ratner, Takahashi left his office and went to the other staircase, located at the south end of the building. As he descended the stairs, he heard voices. Ratner suggested that Takahashi ask the students if they would let him out. Oh, isn't that nice? Just ask the terrorists to have seized control of your building. Yes, I'm sure Argyle, the limo driver, could have just walked up to Hans Gruber and said, "Hey, you mind if I get my limo out of the Nakatomi Corporation here? You mind? So, now that he is going downstairs and hears these voices, he encountered the students who seemed surprised he was still in the building. Takahashi stated that the students were apologetic and said they were sorry. So, if you accidentally kill somebody, oh, I'm sorry, my bad. I'm sorry, my bad. If you accidentally hit somebody with your car, my bad. There are still charges related to that. You still unlawfully imprisoned a person. But we're not going to charge anybody. Oh, and they admitted they did it. One student offered to lead him out of the building. The student then escorted him to the second floor and guided him through the barricade on the main floor. At approximately 1744 hours, Officer Brandt issued an announcement via his marked patrol car's PA system, advising the demonstrators that the IEB was closed and that removing items from the building could result in police action. So, you've got them on trespassing in addition to this. At approximately 1800 hours, vehicles dropped off more demonstrators who entered the building. During this time, an announcement was broadcast via the PA system stating that the building was closed. There were approximately 75 demonstrators in and around the IEB. Whoa, 75. Why were only 33 charged? The UW-PD command staff issued a formal request for mutual aid from the Seattle Police Department and the Washington State Patrol. A composite response team was formed and began preparations to remove the demonstrators from the IEB. This is you're already there, where you have failure to disperse, criminal trespassing. University of Washington Vice President for Campus Community Safety, Sally Clark, and College of Engineering Associate Dean for Academic Affairs, Daniel Ratner, attempted to engage with the demonstrators. However, their efforts were rebuffed. So we're negotiating now. A short while later, the University of Washington student group SUPER, which stands for Students United for Palestinian Equal Rights, began posting claims of responsibility online for the occupation of the building to protest the university's participation with the Boeing Corporation. So now you've got them admitting it. Now they've admitted all the charges I listed so far. Super's posts aim to incite others to join them in support of the occupation by impeding law enforcement. It is clear from the police report, this is what they say, that Super, as a group, organized and executed the takeover of the IEB. In addition, Super emailed a manifesto to certain members of the UW administration claiming credit for the building takeover. They admitted it. No charges for that. At approximately 20:48 hours, UW-PD Sergeant Bentley and members of the SPD POET team, that's the negotiation team, along with Washington State Patrol Lieutenant Leonard, attempted to open a dialogue but were unsuccessful. At 21:51 hours, UW-PD Lieutenant Stewart began issuing a dispersal order. Okay, failure to disperse. You got that one too. They didn't do that. Here's my favorite one. Shortly before the 30-minute deadline to disperse, two dumpsters located outside the IEB were set on fire by the demonstrators, resulting in a delay while the scene was secured so the Seattle Fire Department could extinguish the fires. Well, arson in the second degree, a Class B felony, RCW 9A 48030. Reckless burning, RCW 9A 48040, Class C felony. How about this? You had a whole bunch of rioters with riot gear. Rioting, RCW 9A 84010. Refusal to leave after final police orders. Possible charges include criminal trespass yet again. How many more of these do we need to prove that you had multiple felonies you could have charged these guys with without even the damage to the building itself? So, after they issued the final dispersal order, the Washington State Patrol, wearing riot gear, made initial contact with the demonstrators who were dressed in so-called black bloc attire, including face coverings, helmets, gas masks, and were equipped with makeshift shields. So now you've got Antifa on the scene, which is a designated terrorist group. Now you're talking federal charges. And you didn't want to go down that road either? So now they were all arrested. Oh, it gets so much better. During the arrest process, the arrestees stated, "I exercise my right to remain silent, do not consent to a search, and I want to speak to an attorney," which they all said verbatim. So, conspiracy. How many felonies did I just lay out for this? How many felonies? Also, there's an idea of something called intent may be inferred. Washington's malicious mischief statutes, RCW 9A48, require the state to prove a defendant knowingly and maliciously caused physical damage to a property. Because intent is almost always proven circumstantially, Washington courts allow juries to infer intent from conduct and surrounding circumstances. You mean like being in a building where $1 million in damage was caused, where you're the only ones in the building aside from the person you unlawfully imprisoned? Yeah, I think we can assume safely it was them. Oh, then you asked other people to come help you out. You asked other people to bring you supplies, and you had other people surrounding the area that were causing distractions. According to police documents, they say there were two independent groups operating at this. You mean Antifa and Super? And that there were a lot of people who were conducting the crimes on the ground outside the building who were not arrested. Funny, because now that we have names of all the activists and faces of all the activists, I noticed who was missing. Because there were a whole bunch of activists that I gave the information to these enforcement agencies on who they were. And they're on video lighting fires to those dumpsters, which are Class C felonies, and they were not charged. University of Washington Police Department botched the investigation. They could have had help from the Seattle Police Department. They could have had help from the Washington State Patrol. The King County Prosecutor's Office doesn't want to prosecute this case. So basically, now you've given carte blanche to any activist who wants to do anything at the University of Washington ever again. Free reign to do so, because they know nothing will ever happen to them. Then UW issues this statement. We are pleased to see criminal charges filed with the court related to the occupation of the interdisciplinary engineering building. This is an important step to ensuring accountability for those who have perpetrated this occupation, in addition to the suspensions that the students arrested in the building received through the student conduct process. We value free speech and expression, but also must continue to be a campus community where dangerous, unlawful actions are not tolerated. Well, they are tolerated. You suspended them, and then you let them back on campus. They caused over $1 million worth of damage, and then you unsuspended them and let them back on campus. You continue to allow the Super UW group to be on campus, even though their group was suspended during a previous vandalism of the Husky Union building a few months before that, and you let them give out Hamas propaganda on campus. I ask the question again. If this was a bunch of Trump supporters who did all the things I just listed in this police report, how many felonies would they be charged with? If it was a bunch of KKK members, how many felonies would they be charged with? If it was a bunch of just conservative Republicans in Washington, how many felonies would they be charged with? There is a double standard of justice in King County. And UW was trying to pick a middle ground. Oh, well, we got to hold them accountable in some way, but we still want them to finish their education. UW is damned if they do, damned if they don't. They already got people in the activist world and their own faculty criticizing the fact that they were pleased with these guys are getting off with a slap on the wrist. They're screwed either way. So I want to know what you think. If it was a group of Trump supporters that did this, what do you think would happen to them? Give me a call or a text at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. And just to show there's no justice here in Washington at all, today local outlets were saying, hey, the warlord of the autonomous zone got sentenced. Yeah, not for being the warlord and giving out AR-15s. Tell you all about it when we come back. You're listening to the Ari Hoffman Show. Do you guys remember the name Roz Simone? Do you remember that one at all?
Now that's a name I've not heard in a long time. A long time.
That's right. He was the rapper who was the warlord of the autonomous zone. Okay, for some of you, I might have to remind you what this was all about. You might be new to Seattle, or you might be new to KVI, or you might be new to the Ari Hoffman Show. In 2020, after the death of George Floyd, a whole bunch of Seattle activists decided it was a good idea to start rioting in Seattle. Instead of doing anything about it, the Seattle mayor and the Seattle police chief at the time surrendered the precinct that these people were rioting at and gave it back to the people. They gave it back to all of them. That's what they did, right? Just like Bane. It was right out of The Dark Knight Rises. I give this to you, the people. Right? That's what it was. And you literally had that insanity in Gotham here in Seattle. Well, little Ari Hoffman on his first assignment goes on down there to check out the autonomous zone. I got a Glock on my hip and my bounce house in my trunk, and I'm good to go. So I head on down there, and I'm interviewing people, and I interview this one guy, tells me all about everything. I bring it home, and my wife says to me, Ari, what'd you get down there? And I said, I got this interview. Check it out. So she's looking at it. She says, do you have any idea who you just interviewed? And I said, no. And she said, that's the warlord of the autonomous zone. And I said, what do you mean the warlord of the autonomous zone? And she pulls up all this video on social media of the night before of this guy going around beating the crap out of people. Oh, then there's these videos that start surfacing of him handing out guns, AR-15s, to anybody who will stand opposed, these Antifa and BLM radical activists who seize control of the city. Yeah, no charges for any of that. No charges for taking over 6 square blocks of Seattle. No charges for anything. So then I see this headline this morning, and I'm like, wait, there's a sentence for the warlord? I didn't know he was on trial. KUOW actually did a great article towards the end of the autonomous zone talking about, hey, where'd the warlord go? Because at the end, he wasn't around. Where'd he disappear to? Well, apparently some women showed up in the middle of this, some lefty women, and started accusing him of all these awful, awful, awful sexual things. And then the warlord was erased from existence. He just vanished from the autonomous zone. He was gone. Well, now it seems like some charges were actually brought against this guy. We covered it when they were first filed. A King County jury has found the Seattle hip-hop artist Solomon Raz Simone liable for criminal profiteering, awarding 4 women $2.1 million in a civil... It's a civil case. You mean there were no actual charges, say from King County prosecutors? There were no charges for taking over 6 blocks of a city? No charges for the assaults that were captured on video? No charges for the Democrats who hate guns for handing out AR-15s out of the trunk of his Tesla. No charges at all. So I'm glad that these women are getting these millions of dollars for these awful things this guy did. But it kind of feels like when OJ went to jail for stealing his sports memorabilia back, you wanted him on the murder charges. But since we couldn't make the murder charges actually happen, we'll take what we can get. That's what this feels like. So hang on a second. If this guy's been on trial this whole time, they know where he is. They know where to find him. And they still haven't pressed any charges for handing out AR-15s out of the trunk of a Tesla. Still haven't pressed any charges for taking over 6 blocks of Seattle. Still haven't pressed any charges for any of the assaults. There is no justice. Either that or the King County prosecuting attorney's office is completely incompetent. The fact that they still haven't charged this guy. This is absolutely insane. Absolutely insane. Looks like a lot of you want to weigh in on the lack of justice here in Washington. So we go to the Warrior Injury Law Studio line. Take a call from Mitsuki in Michigan, who used to be a student at UW. What's up, man?
Hello. Yeah, I just wanted to talk to you about the underlying issues happening at the University of Washington. I think this is much more than a criminal processing issue. I think this is a culture issue. In fact, you were talking about the civil proceedings about the BLM warlords, but the University of Washington has not, in my knowledge, brought any civil lawsuits against these super UW student organizers when they have 100% the choice to do that. And I sometimes send you the emails. You see that the UW professors are talking. Just a week after the incident, they are already defending the students who vandalized the IEB, which is a state property, So I think this is much more than a criminal, incompetency issue. I think this is a cultural issue that the UW is having.
I think you're 100%
and unless we
right.
fix that,
Yeah.
Yeah,
I think you're 100% right. They could do what these women did and sue Super UW civilly. They know all their names. They could go after every single one of them. And by the way, we've known their names for months now, literally for months, and they've done nothing about this. Mitsuki, you are 100% right, and I know you were keeping up the fight during that time and keeping a lot of people informed, and you were doing a job which a lot of other people, especially in the mainstream media, didn't want to do. You were exposing all this stuff. And so many other people, the mainstream media didn't want to touch it. Look at the headlines today from Como, from King, from Cairo, from all the different news outlets here. Basically saying, like, this is a win, this isn't a win. This is a slap on the wrist. Mitsuki, you're a good man. Appreciate the call. Appreciate you being part of the show. You want to be part of the show, give us a call or a text at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. By the way, the Warlord is not the only one in the hot seat today. When we come back, Tim Walz was getting huge questioning on Capitol Hill today, and you just think to yourself, thank God that guy's not vice president. That plus more of your calls. You're listening to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. Welcome back to the Ari Hoffman Welcome back to the Ari Hoffman Show. Just a reminder, everybody, we are giving away fantabulous prizes today, so you can have nothing but a good time. Today, you get to win 2 advanced screening tickets to see Universal Pictures' Reminders of Him, highly anticipated film adaptation from best-selling author Colleen Hoover. It's March 10th at 6:15. Now, here is how you enter to win. Head on over to KVI.com, go to the contest page, fill out your information right there. That is how you enter to win these fantabulous prizes. We go to the Warrior Injury Law Studio line. Take a call from Susan in Kirkland. Susan, what's up?
Hi. I have a relationship to the UW in that my kids were involved with aerospace there and aerospace careers now. And the thing is that are those misdemeanors posted somewhere we can see the people that were involved? Or their names
sure. I'll tell you what, actually, Susan. I'll make you a little thing that I'll make this real easy for you. If somebody wants the list of the names of all the students, I'll put them on my social media later today, which is Ari Hoffman Official at Facebook and Instagram, the Hofffather over on Twitter. But also, I wrote an article about it over at KVI. Now, I don't remember if I included all their names, but I will update it, so I'll tell you what. If you email me, ari@kvi.com, and just put in the subject line, article, please, I will send you the article I write about this, which includes the names of every single person who was involved in this.
Okay, can I stop you just a second?
Yeah.
Okay, so the key thing here is anybody that takes place in a demonstration where it's related to like the engineering buildings or the kind of thing that was on the campus like that, those names, if those are posted somewhere, and any defense contractor, especially Boeing, anybody has a list of those names, those people will never have a job. They can't get security clearances. This is a very big deal. Getting those misdemeanors meant that those names are on lists. And believe me, none of these defense contractors have to take any chances. There are lines out the door to get those jobs, and they can get people that are not these. Now, you're also going to end up with, are any of the people on that list, are they all citizens? Are they all locals, et cetera, et cetera?
Yeah, I looked at it. I didn't see any names that jumped out at me as being on ICE's radar, or I would have touched base with them immediately. But, yeah, I am going to reach out to ICE just to be sure. I will send that stuff over. Okay, Susan?
Okay, I will try to access a complete list and see how much hay I can make with it. But I will just tell you that sometimes the misdemeanors don't show up. But if it hits social media or anything else where those names are listed, immediately that's picked up.
I can guarantee you it will hit social media. I promise you that, Susan. Appreciate the call.
Right,
Appreciate you being part of the show. You want to be part of the show, you give us a call or text at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. We go back to the Warrior Injury Law Studio line. Take a call from Bob in Seattle. Bob, what's going on?
Hey, Ari, how you doing?
Good.
Hey, you do know why Raz Simone didn't get prosecuted, right?
Because the city gave him $80,000 for a rap studio?
No, it's because his best buddy, Harold Scoggins, chief of the Seattle Fire Department, was texting with him. And through the prosecution process, those texts would have been made public. I have personally requested all of those texts through FOIA, and they will not give them to me.
So it's funny.
Still exist.
It's funny. Here's the thing. I have some of them, and some of them clearly show him communicating not just with Scoggins, the current chief of the Seattle Fire Department, not just with him, but also with the mayor's office, also with the police department, with Carmen Bess's office. And remember, all those texts just mysteriously disappeared. Now, I will say something, Bob.
But they didn't.
No, I know they didn't. But here's the thing, Bob. It's 5 years later. I think somebody like Raz Simone, who's getting $80,000 in city grants, has probably replaced his cell phone a time or two. Can you pull it out of his cloud or wherever it is? Sure. But somebody who's a criminal, who's smart, who's gotten away with all this, probably would have scrubbed the device beforehand. I'm not saying you're wrong, and you still can get those things, but I wonder if he still actually has them.
You can get them from Harold Scoggins' phone. They're still in the cloud.
Oh, I know.
Either Harold Scoggins either erased them from the cloud, which is a Class C felony in and of itself.
Yep.
But he took it to the Apple Store on October 8th of 2020, I believe, and instructed them to erase it after the Apple Store person said, well, you do know that by
it's still
by
in the cloud. I remember that from the documents. That was great. Bob, appreciate the call. Appreciate the trip down memory lane. Appreciate this. I'm going to have to do a little bit of digging tonight. Appreciate you being part of the show. You want to be part of the show, give us a call or text at 206-421-5757. We go back to the Warrior Injury Law studio line. Take a call from Scott in Issaquah. Scott, what's up?
Hey, all right. Well, I want to say 3 quick things about this Raz Simone. I remember seeing video footage of him or some people under him handing out AK-47s. I believe they were full autos to minors, 16-year-old boys. I mean, and it's funny, these people are the same. They're the Communist Party, Democrat Party USA. They vote for these people that are anti-gun. They try to take all of our rights away, and they are always accusing people who hang American flags at the Capitol of being insurrectionists. This guy is an insurrectionist. He committed treason. I don't know why the federal government isn't prosecuting him and taking away his citizenship and throwing him in a prison for 100 years. This is ridiculous. And last time I heard about this guy actually was, I think he was offered a job by either the mayor's office or Greene County or something. That's the last time I heard about him.
No. You're confusing two people. Hang on. You're confusing two people. There's the street czar who is somebody else. Raz Simone just got an 80,000. Yeah, I can't believe I have to. There was actually, they hired a pimp. They hired a pimp to solve crime when they defunded the police. I wish I was making this up. No. For the warlord of the autonomous zone, they just gave him $80,000 for a rap studio. Yes, that actually happened.
Yeah, I heard about that too.
Yeah.
But I mean, why not the federal government? Why won't the federal government prosecute? This is federal crimes. I mean,
know what?
To give out guns, like that's a federal crime.
Hang
I don't
on,
understand
Scott.
why we just don't.
Hang on, Scott. I think what I have to do is tonight, maybe send an email or two like the emails I sent last night to the Department of Justice and a few other people about all this insanity. Maybe tonight I have to pull up that video, which I have saved. It's actually part of the book I'm working on about the autonomous zone. I have that video saved, and maybe we'll just send that on off along with all this information that everybody's so kind in giving me. Yeah, that's some good stuff, Scott.
They should get him. I mean, he took up arms against the United States government.
Yeah. Well, also that, wait a second, hang on. Didn't they say they were seceding from the United States of America? Don't we call that a deadly insurrection? Wait, hang on. Didn't a whole bunch of people take over a building and cause a whole bunch of damage and occupy it? Isn't that a deadly insurrection? Oh, if the left didn't have double standards, they'd have no standards at all. Scott, appreciate the call. Appreciate you being part of the show. You want to be part of the show, you give us a call or text at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. You know who else is in hot water? Tampon Tim. And when we come back, the insane audio of him being up on Capitol Hill being grilled by all your favorite Republicans. That plus more of your calls and more of your texts. You're listening to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. The House Oversight Committee released a report today alleging that Minnesota Governor Tim Walz and Attorney General Keith Ellison covered up the massive fraud in the state. Now, mind you, they issued this right before Tim Walz came to testify. So right there, the guy's already at a disadvantage. But you got to wonder, is he unaware completely the fraud happened? Is he unprepared at this at all? Was he looking the other way, or is he in on it? Because he just sounds like a bumbling fool, an absolute moron, a maroon, you might say. As they're asking him about all this, there's playing dumb, and then there's actually dumb. And when I say actually dumb, I think of Tim Walz.
Tell the truth about the Feeding Our Future program. This program, my understanding, received $3 million the first year. Within a couple years was getting $200 million of taxpayer money. Whistleblowers raised concerns. As the chairman said, auditors raised concerns. Everybody raised concerns. March 30th, 2021, the payments are stopped. And a little over a month later, the payments are restarted. Why didn't you tell the truth about why you restarted the payments?
Well, Chairman, we did tell you. And Feeding Our Future grew because of the pandemic. And
I didn't ask that question. I said, why didn't you tell the truth about why you restarted the payments? The payments stopped because there were concerns, obviously. It wouldn't stop the payments. Then they're restarted a month later. What was the reason for restarting the payments?
My understanding was the agency believed that the court had required them to make those payments.
And that was false, wasn't it? You repeated that. You said that, didn't you? You said that's why the reason. You said the reason you restarted is because the court ordered you to do so. Is that right?
I don't believe that is settled yet, to the best of my knowledge.
Well, I think it is, because the court did something that I just don't. I don't know if I've ever seen it. They issued a statement saying you were wrong in what you were saying. This is from the court. It says, Feeding Our Future versus Minnesota Department of Education, correcting reports and statements by Governor Tim Walz concerning orders issued by the court.
Okay. Do you think Tim Walz is in on it? Do you think Tim Walz is playing dumb? You think Tim Walz is actually dumb? Give us a text, 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. Nancy Mace. Oh, Nancy Mace. She's so much fun. I know a lot of this. It's not a court of law, but it's fun to watch him squirm up there. Watch what Nancy Mace does, because she knows, hey, I'm playing to the cameras. I'm doing this for social media. Watch what happens next.
What is a woman? Have you learned that lesson? Do you know what a woman is?
I'm the governor of Minnesota, Congressman.
You know what a
I'm not
woman
here
is.
to be your prop for your obsession.
So
I
if you
taught
can't
middle school,
define
your
what
obsession.
a woman is, you certainly can't define what fraud is. If you can't even define what a woman is, you can't define fraud. How much money was spent on autism in Minnesota in 2017, Governor?
I don't have those numbers in front of me, Congresswoman.
Did you prepare for this hearing today?
That's a very important question. He's there to testify about fraud. He's there to testify about fraud. And he doesn't have the numbers in front of him? That's an easy one. Hey, staffer, can you do me a favor? Just do a quick Google thing for me and see how much money we gave to these guys.
Did you
I
do
did.
any preparation
I take
for this hearing
Congress
today?
seriously.
And you've seen the numbers about autism fraud in Minnesota. So we're going to do some Minnesota math with you today, okay? Are you ready? How much money was spent on 2017 for autism in Minnesota? How much?
I don't know. I wasn't the governor.
Okay. Did you not just say that you prepared for this hearing today? $1 million, okay? A quick Google search or using your AI could tell you $1 million was spent. How much money was spent on autism in Minnesota in 2024?
I don't have the number in front of me. As
Were you governor in 2024?
I was, but I'm not the
Okay,
head
so
of
your
HHS.
excuse before that you didn't know what 2017 autism numbers were because you were not governor, and today you can't answer the numbers about 2024 as governor, and you still said you prepared for this hearing today. It's unbelievable. $343 million.
Exactly. Kelly in Seattle says over on the text line, I asked before, I said, is he in on it? Is he playing dumb or is he actually dumb? Kelly in Seattle says Tim Walz is all of the above. I think you're right. I did like this moment here with Representative Gill, because remember, the people in the Somalian community, there are the records in the Feeding Our Future scandal. What was the Feeding Our Future scandal that they're talking about? That's the one where 12.9 million meals were not actually served, but they claim that they were, with real names. So there's a lot of people that were involved in this, and they were getting federal money for this. No meals were actually served. That's the organization that has ties to Ilhan Omar, that was donating to her campaign, that she was having events at their location and didn't go, hey, where are these food assembly lines for these 12.9 million meals? Well, we found out later that one of the things they were doing to employees of the Minnesota government was saying, if you expose what we're doing, we're going to label you as a racist. That was how they were doing this. Oh, you mean the favorite Democrat talking point? You're a racist. So here's what Representative Gill did with this.
Would you also agree that calling somebody racist is a serious accusation?
If they are racist, I think it's probably
I'm asking
accurate.
is that a serious accusation to make about somebody?
I think it's just an observation of reality.
All right, well, let's go there. Is it racist for a government official to identify fraud?
No.
No. Is it Islamophobic?
To identify fraud?
To identify fraud?
No, I don't believe it would be.
How come multiple whistleblowers have said that your administration told them not to say anything about widespread fraud across multiple agencies because doing so would be considered racist or Islamophobic?
I can't speak to it because it's not anything I would say.
Well, that's what your administration has said and has told whistleblowers, and as you just testified, the buck stops with you. That's what you stated in your statement whenever you announced you weren't running again.
Oh, what a mess. What an absolute mess. We really dodged the bullet on that one. I'm not just talking about the one heading for Donald Trump, thank God he dodged. We're talking about Tim Walz, a heartbeat away from being president of the United States. 253 says he is dumb as a post and he is in on it. Check his bank accounts. Do you think he's smart enough to be in on it, or you think he's like a Jay Inslee type who just gets used? We go to the Warrior Injury Law Studio line, take a call from our friend Transit Joe. Transit Joe, what's up, man?
A lot of thoughts, so I'm going to, if you got to call time, you got to call time, my friend. But let's start with this whole UW dirty free thing and them only getting misdemeanors. Progressive pro-Palestinian, activists keep harassing the Seattle City Council about cameras on all over Seattle. But, wherever the camera, there's cameras on transit, even up in Skagit County. Why weren't there not first question, why were there not cameras at the UW building with millions of dollars of equipment?
Yep. And here's a better thing for you. Why don't we have access to the police body cameras from that night, where we found them, what rooms they were in? For all we know, they walked into the room and they were in the middle of damaging the equipment. So why don't we have the body camera footage? And I have asked for it.
I know you have. I know you would, and it's just absolutely infuriating. Here's the second point: where the heck is the combat? Frankly, and I'm going to speak bluntly here. Where is the Combat Air Patrol of taxpayer advocate speakers that are giving the regents surround sound condemnation of not having their act together to put cameras in there and to protect Jews?
Well, how about this? How about just forget the Jews for a second? How about their own equipment? Joe, appreciate the call. Appreciate you being part of the show. You want to be part of the show, give us a call or text at 206-421-5757. Next up, I was right again. Starbucks bailing on Seattle. Do you think that's going to give Bob Ferguson what he needs to not do the income tax? Tell you all about it when we come back. You're listening to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. Welcome to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI, your home for the politically homeless, streaming live at KVI.com and the KVI app. If you want to be part of the most dangerous show on the airwaves, give us a call or a text at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. Coming up this hour, looks like the case over my press passes are going to the feds. We'll tell you all about it. But before we get to any of that, my friends, do you remember yesterday? Yesterday. Literally yesterday. 24 hours ago. Almost exactly. 25 hours ago. We're in the second hour of the show. I opened the show by saying that Starbucks was likely leaving Seattle. Oh, you wouldn't believe the blowback I got from this. People saying, Ari, you don't know what you're talking about. What do you know? You're just a conservative radio host. We shouldn't believe your sources. They don't know what they're talking about. Was there a single outlet in town today that wasn't covering the story? Here's a better thing for you. You can tell which outlets are for real and which outlets are biased based on their headlines. Some are saying jobs are moving to Nashville. Some are saying, but the company insists jobs aren't moving out of Seattle. I couldn't believe that the most accurate outlet about this was actually King 5. I was shocked that King 5 was the one that was the most accurate about this. Starbucks will relocate a portion of its Seattle-based corporate workforce as it expands operations to Tennessee. According to the coffee giant, the move will affect roles tied to direct and indirect sourcing operation teams within Starbucks' supply chain organization. Starbucks claimed that Seattle will remain its North America and global support headquarters, but said it will continue evaluating whether additional teams and roles should transition to Nashville over time. The Tennessee Department of Economic and Community Development said Starbucks plans to establish a new corporate office in Nashville later this year, with more details expected in the coming months. According to King 5, Starbucks said Seattle employees whose positions are impacted are being offered the option and support to relocate. Oh, but the jobs aren't leaving, right? Starbucks isn't leaving. How dare you, Ari? Last night after the show, it was still the Jewish holiday of Purim. Purim, which is Jewish Halloween, for lack of a better description, we don't need to get into the whole thing right now, you usually have a big Thanksgiving-style meal at the end of it. So I go to my in-laws' house, and they'd been at it for about an hour and a half before I got there. They started at 5. I walked in the door at 6:30. Right, left the show almost right away, didn't do anything after the show, got in the car, got there around 6:30. So I walk in, everybody's happy to see me, and we've had a few drinks, and we're sitting around being merry and reveling in the holiday, and there's a friend there I haven't seen in a while. A successful business guy. Lives in Seattle, also spent some time in Florida. And he was asking some questions about the income tax, and I was catching him up on everything. And I said, hey, by the way, you hear that Starbucks is getting out of Seattle? He goes, what? And I explained it to him, and he was just blown away. And then he said, what do they need this income tax for? What are they spending the money on? And I got, oh, sir, let me tell you, $4.3 million for surgeries for trans inmates. He goes, you're making that up. I go, I am not, sir. And I pulled up the article and showed him. And I said, wait, it gets better. We're also spending money on laser hair removal for trans inmates. No, you're not. And since we've had a few drinks, I got a little bit more descriptive about Rain City Jacks, the men's self-service station. Had a little bit more description. He goes, are you kidding me? Of course, he used a few words I can't use on the radio. And then I said, oh, no, dude, you like that one. How about that? We are giving $10,000 from the Arts Commission to stripper yoga. I just started going down the list. We were just talking about all this stuff. Stripper yoga, Rain City Jacks. That's right. Alcohol for members of the legislature. Right? That's what sure. Exactly. In fact, by the way, there are rumors that another lawmaker actually has a DUI. Carlene Johnson is going to join us to discuss that at 4:30 today. Yeah, exactly. Talk about who's getting the shots and where we can get them from. Shots of espresso. Back to Starbucks. Company leaders framed the Tennessee expansion as a strategic move to support growth across North America, particularly in the central and southern United States and parts of the Northeast. Whoa, hang on. You mean you're not growing in the Pacific Northwest and the West Coast? Oh, you mean all those insane minimum wage requirements and having your windows shattered all the time by activists, and just the fact that it's so expensive here in Washington State is in a recession. People may have cut out their morning cup of coffee that's $10. Maybe, perhaps. So why are they expanding in other places and not here in Washington? In a prepared statement, Starbucks Chief Operating Officer Mike Grams called Nashville an ideal location for a new office and a stronger Southeast presence, pointing to the city's deep, talented, and growing workforce. Tennessee state and local leaders welcomed the announcement, calling it a win for job creation and corporate investment. Deputy Governor Stuart McWhorter said Starbucks' decision underscores Tennessee's appeal for corporate growth and will deliver meaningful, well-paying opportunities for residents. Governor Bill Lee also praised the move, saying that the state is proud to welcome another Fortune 500 company and that the investment will create quality jobs for Tennesseans. Nashville Mayor Freddie O'Connell echoed that sentiment, highlighting the city's efforts to create career pathways and expand access for good-paying jobs. He said Nashville is excited to continue attracting employers that recognize the region's quality of life and provide opportunities for economic mobility. The news is the latest hit to the company's presence in Seattle. At the end of 2025, Starbucks announced a $1 billion restructuring plan, including over 900 corporate layoffs and store closures to address declining sales and improve operational efficiency. Approximately 974 non-retail employees, non-retail, that means corporate, by the way. They laid off a whole bunch of those people. Later that month, you had the protesters from the Antifa setting up shop right there in front of the building. And who joined them? The Democrat from Hamas, Pramila Jayapal, because she loves an intifada as much as anybody else. And if you could get a venti along with it, why wouldn't you? Let's not forget, Seattle Mayor Katie Wilson went down to join the Red Cup protesters the day she won the election. Went on down. That's her first stop. Went to join the protesters. Why would you stay? Why would you stay? There's something else to think about with all this. How much talent are we losing? How many corporations are we losing? I know I love being right, and I'm excited I was right about this, but then it sinks in. We're losing Starbucks. Starbucks. When you remember in the second Austin Powers movie, when it flashes to Dr. Evil's headquarters. Do you remember where his headquarters is at the beginning of the movie? So they're in the top of the Space Needle, and it says Starbucks coffee around the top of the Space Needle because they're hiding out in Seattle, Washington. And everybody's drinking their little Starbucks, and they're all so happy. Dr. Evil, living at the top of the Space Needle because Seattle is synonymous with Starbucks. We're losing another Seattle company thanks to bad policies. Remember that people said Boeing would never move? Yeah, Boeing left their corporate offices. They moved those out. In fact, I think they moved them twice by now. They also moved the assembly of planes to the East Coast. They're not here anymore. We got a few that are here, but how many lines should have been here that aren't here? How many layoffs have there been at Amazon? Amazon moves out of Seattle. Amazon goes to Bellevue. Amazon now has HQ2 and HQ3 and HQ4. They don't need to be here anymore. In fact, my brother was telling me that he has a friend who now actually has to come here to work for Amazon, and he really doesn't want to come here because he's heard all the awful things about Seattle. He's trying to figure out how to still work for Amazon for a job that's based literally right here in Seattle, but doesn't actually want to be here. That's how bad it's gotten. How much talent have we lost? But worse than that, how many companies could be formed here and now never will be? Somebody who started Costco said, hey, I can make a great company from here. REI, Starbucks, Microsoft, Amazon. How many other companies are we never going to know could have been here, but could have been here? And they're being chased away by Democrat stupidity. And also, the media covering for the Democrats. No, they're not leaving. They're not leaving. My sources tell me they're going to be moving 100 jobs here, 100 jobs there, 100 jobs there, until that beautiful building, which is surrounded by homeless people, down in Sodo, is gone. Empty. Vamos. Do you think it's going to end up like the PI? Okay. Some of you who might be new to the area, you might remember the Seattle Post-Intelligencer, lacking a lot of intelligence because they're out of business. We used to have two newspapers here. You had the Seattle Times and you had the Seattle Post-Intelligencer. What's kind of sad is outside these big, beautiful windows we have here, I can't see it right now. It's in the corner. You can see it from my desk. But you actually see the globe of the Seattle Post-Intelligencer still there on top of the building like it's the Daily Planet or something. I think it's Tech Space now. Oh, no, wait, I'm sorry. It's Seattle. It's empty now. 30% vacancy rate here in Seattle. It's probably empty right now. So when you drive past the Starbucks corporate headquarters, which I did this morning, by the way, when you drive past it, I remember I used to go there, and there was an Office Max, there was a Whole Foods, there was Starbucks, and there was a daycare. Ain't nobody in that daycare no more. No Office Max anymore. And Amazon Whole Foods, gone. And now, how many people are actually left working in that building when they laid off 974 plus people? I believe the original number they were talking about laying off was 1,300. So there's even more people who probably are not working there anymore. How many people are even in that building? At the Starbucks building, there's this little tower. It's got a clock on it, and on top of that is the mermaid's head. Is it a mermaid or a siren? I've been told both. Some people correct me on that. Whatever. The mermaid's head is poking out the top. Years from now, are we going to drive by and go, hey, remember when Starbucks used to be there? It's like the Post-Intelligencer. How many other things are we going to go by, these abandoned landmarks that we don't have anymore? Didn't they used to have the roasteries? The really nice, fancy roasteries? Nobody goes to those no more. Those were kind of nice, actually. Didn't feel like the usual Starbucks vibe. Yeah, really, really sad. Do you think this is going to wake up Turd Ferguson? Do you think this is going to wake him up at all? Holy cow, you moron. The amount of taxes you are passing are chasing away our cornerstone companies. You are killing the golden goose. So shortly after my report starts going viral on social media, what happens? You start hearing these reports from the Washington State Standard, which basically, if the Democrats want something out there, they just call Jerry Cornfield and the Washington State Standard. Later in the show, we're going to talk about how Jerry Cornfield and the Washington State Standard are involved in me not getting my press passes and how that's been escalated up because they're the Democrats' hatchet men, or I'm sorry, I should say hatchet men. That's not the right term for it. Lackey. Lackey would be the better way to say it, Jerry. So what happens? You've got this story. Bob Ferguson's reconsidering his income tax. What? No, I don't believe it for a second. Yeah, apparently he sent out an email saying they're reworking the income. No. This is cover. This is all cover. You really think Bob Ferguson is not going to do the income tax? Let me tell you why. Number one, he's an ambitious you-know-what. In fact, even the Seattle Times in their endorsement of him said he's overly ambitious. Bob Ferguson wants to stay in everybody's good graces. Remember last year when he started sounding bipartisan, the Democrats just slapped him right back down? None of that. We're not going to have any of that. We're going to deny your staff floor privileges. Nope. We're not going to play your little game. So he did whatever they wanted. Remember what he said last year? Hang on. This is back-to-back statements from Turd Ferguson.
Neither budget is close to one that I can sign for two key reasons. First, they each propose far too much in taxes. Okay, with that, I think we're ready to sign this budget. Okay.
And scene.
Yeah. Remember that Bob Ferguson was the one who said, no, we can't tax our way out of this. Here I am signing the taxes. The largest tax increase in Washington State history. You remember that? You remember that? Yeah, that's exactly what happened. Why would you believe him now? Do you know what he's doing right now? He's trying to save face. First of all, he's got all these companies leaving, and people are calling up and yelling at his office. That's number one. Number two, he's got the Democrats, and the Democrats go, we want our income tax no matter what. You better play ball with us. Number three, he wants to be ambitious, and he's not going to get higher positions because of this. He wants to run for president one day. That's not going to happen. Bob Ferguson is trying to make it look like, well, I tried, so that way he can run for re-election here. Now he's not worried about higher office. Now he's worried about winning another term because the blowback to this has been so bad. The Democrats thought they were so clever. Oh, we'll repackage it. We'll call it a millionaire's tax. Nobody fell for that. Nobody believes them. So then what they do? Oh, we'll come out with a push poll, which we'll get our buddies to do and say that Republicans support this thing. Nobody believed that either. But then the cold, hard face of reality hit him, where all of a sudden he's getting these phone calls of Starbucks is leaving Washington. 30,000 layoffs in the tech sector. And then the tech bros are rising up and saying, yeah, dude, we're going back to San Francisco. You killed the golden goose. Ferguson knows he's in trouble. But you think he's going to give this up? Nope, because then he's got problems with the Democrats. He's got problems with his base. You think they won't primary him? You bet they would. You bet they would. But that's not what he's so worried about. He's worried about losing another term. That's what he's most worried about. He's worried about not getting higher office. And all your donors are now telling you that they're fleeing the state and they're taking their businesses with them. If Bob Ferguson says he's backing off the proposed income tax, do not believe him for 1 second. This is the same guy who said Washington couldn't tax its way out of its budget problems, and his party just added $2 billion in spending when they claim there's a budget problem, and last year he signed the largest tax increase in state history. You know what this does show me? That the pressure is working. The pressure is actually working. For all of you who said they're going to sign it anyway, Bob Ferguson does not leak to the Washington State Standard that he's rethinking things about the income tax if everything's hunky-dory. Keep up the pressure. Keep up the pressure. Melt the phone lines. And I'll tell you something else. If the GOP won't do it, we'll do it. Anybody who signs or supports this income tax, we will make sure that their opponents know about it and that their constituents know about it going into the elections. And let me tell you something that's powerful, because from what I hear inside the Democrat caucus, Bob Ferguson is losing support. Believe it or not, there are a few clear-headed thinking Democrats that say, wait a minute, my district could go the other way. And if I actually vote for this thing, people like Ari Hoffman are going to magnify it, and now I got problems. But also there's other ones who now businesses are leaving their areas, and now they're in trouble too. Keep up the pressure. It's working. Look up whoever is your representative in the Washington State Legislature. Real easy to Google something like that. Look up who the person is, call their office, and say, if you support this tax, I will make it my mission that you never get reelected again. That's not a threat. That's a promise. That's the way we stop this thing. And I guarantee you're going to have an effect. And you're going to change some minds over there, and you might be able to stop that income tax. I mean, hell, even California is starting to see the error of their ways. I don't know if you guys are aware of this. California saw the massive corporate flight and the wealth flight out of California. But yet you ask somebody like Gavin Newsom, oh, everything's just hunky-dory in California. But now even he's changing his positions. Why? Because he wants to be president. We'll have some insane audio of what he said when we come back. You're listening to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KBI. Everybody knows Gavin Newsom wants to be president. Gavin Newsom hasn't officially declared he's running for president, but he's the Democratic front runner. Oh, wait, Kamala Harris is still kind of hanging out over there, but let's be real. That's still in the afterglow of the election. You still have Kamala Harris polling kind of high, which is really, really dumb. Oh, you know what? Please, oh, please run Kamala Harris again. That would just be too much fun. But Gavin Newsom is now weighing in on foreign policy. The reason he's doing that is because he wants to run for president, and anything Trump says, he has to take the opposite side on. Gavin Newsom never really said anything about foreign policy really that much before, and usually when he did, it was something kind of generic, but more recently he's been getting worse and worse and worse. So, Newsom earlier today falsely claimed that the U.S. and Israel bombed a girls' school. This is what Gavin Newsom said. Give a listen.
We have to reconcile why our bombs were used, or Israeli bombs were used, to kill children, young girls at a school, and what the imminent threat was. It hasn't been described.
Yeah, one little teensy tiny problem. The rocket/missile that landed on that school was a misfired rocket/missile, ballistic missile, from Iran. Iran blew up their own girls' school. Holy cow, I feel like I just had 3 years of this, where the Palestinians would claim, oh, look what you did, and it turned out they had just misfired their own rocket. Because, believe it or not, the Iranian rockets, as accurate as they want them to be, they're not as accurate. That's why they keep missing embassies. That's why they keep shooting other things. Don't get me wrong, they are hitting their targets a lot more often than those rockets coming out of Gaza. But they do misfire, and it misfired, and it hit this girl's school. In fact, Caroline Levitt even slammed a reporter today for pushing this false story.
Hey, did the United States airstrike a girls' elementary school and kill 175 people?
Not that we know of, Sean, and the Department of War is investigating this matter, and I would just tell you very strongly, the United States of America does not target civilians, unlike the rogue Iranian regime that targets civilians, that kills children, that has killed thousands of their own people in the past several weeks, and uses propaganda quite effectively, and unfortunately, many people in this room have fallen for that propaganda. So I would caution you from pointing the finger at the United States of America when it comes to targeting civilians, because that's not something that these armed forces do.
She's 100% right. They are following the same playbook out of Gaza from Hamas. They're doing the exact same thing, the same nonsense we've heard before. But now Gavin Newsom is doing something else. He's calling Israel an apartheid state, blaming Israel for the war against the Islamic regime in Iran. Now, I'm going to play this clip for you. It's a little bit on the longer side. Then I'll explain exactly why he's doing this.
And a lot of Democrats have looked at the Netanyahu regime and felt like, you know what, we don't like the trajectory he's on. It's time to rethink the U.S. relationship with Israel, especially military support.
Well,
where do you
Bibi's
stand?
making that easy right now. Let's talk about that. But the issue of Bibi's interesting because he's got his own domestic issues. He's trying to stay out of jail. He's got an election coming up. He's potentially on the ropes. He's got folks, the hard line, that want to annex the West Bank.
Okay, can we stop right there? Bibi just took out the Ayatollah. Bibi took out all the enemies of Israel. Are Israeli politics complicated? Yes. Bibi is not on the ropes. He was after October 7th. He's not now. Second of all these charges they keep bringing up about Bibi and corruption, it's a lot like what they try to do with Trump with all his charges. If you ask any Israeli about Bibi, you're going to get 6 different answers out of the one person. It's not like with Donald Trump. Do you like Donald Trump? Do you hate Donald Trump? Or are you people who support Donald Trump, but you don't like what he tweets or whatever the case may be? With Bibi Netanyahu, you're going to have one Israeli tell you in the same sentence, I love what he does for security. I don't like his wife. I don't like this. I don't like that. But we need him because the other guy sucks. And this is who we got. And we got nobody else. You're going to hear all those things out of the one Israeli. Gavin Newsom is demonstrating here how little he knows. Gets worse from there.
I mean, Freeman and others are talking about it appropriately, sort of an apartheid state.
Whoa. Thomas Freeman, one of the most anti-Israel writers over at the New York Times, calling it an apartheid state. Gavin, Bubby, Thanks for showing how little you know about the Middle East. Does an apartheid state allow the people under apartheid to vote? Does the apartheid state allow the people under apartheid to be in the military? Does the apartheid state allow them to be part of the government, including Supreme Court justices, including being members of the Knesset, which is their version of Congress? There is no apartheid in Israel. My son talks to me all the time about the people on his base. It's a hodgepodge. You cannot believe how many different kinds of people are on that base. If Israel is an apartheid state, they suck at apartheid. I will tell you that. That is one of the craziest things I've ever heard. Look at the videos of the bomb shelters, of the people you're seeing in the bomb shelters right now. They're trending all over social media. It doesn't look like one generic group of people down there. Take a look, Gavin.
They couldn't even, we're talking about regime change. For 2 years, they haven't even been able to solve the Hamas question.
Oh, okay, Gavin. All right, Gavin. Have we heard from Hamas recently? No, we're taking them out slowly but surely. Is Yahya Sinwar still a thing? Everybody who participated in the October 7th attacks is dead. Going door to door, basically getting rid of every single terrorist you can, going door to door to avoid civilian casualties takes time, you moron. Do these talking points sound familiar? Hang on. Just listen a bit more.
Israel. So this is, I want to be careful here, but in so many ways, that influence in the context of the conversation of where Trump ultimately landed on this is pretty damn self-evident.
Wait a second. Now you're saying Israel is telling Trump what to do. Do all these talking points sound familiar to you? Oh, right. They're all the lefty talking points. Gavin Newsom may be a fool, but he's no fool. He may be a moron, but he's no fool. He saw the polling that the majority of Democrat Party, for the first time ever, is now backing the Palestinians over Israel. He saw the polling that showed that because people thought Kamala Harris was too supportive of Israel, even though she wasn't supportive of Israel, it cost her votes from the radical far left. So what is Gavin Newsom doing? Trying to win the far left because he knows that he needs to get them. You run to the hard extremes to try and get them this early, and that's exactly what he is trying to do. He is the most disingenuous person in the world. He really is a lizard person. This one here from Mike. Post-intelligencer, when I first moved to Seattle, I worked for a biotech company in the PI building. We later moved to the Russell Investment Building. Then the company folded. Yeah, this is what's going on. A lot of companies around here are moving. Ari, when I was a kid, the Post-Intelligencer was considered the local flagship for yellow journalism, while the Times was always a relatively reliable news source. Didn't take long for the Times to turn brilliant yellow after the demise of the PI. Heck, I'd sooner believe an article in The Stranger than the Times. After all, most of the so-called journalists at the Times started at The Stranger anyway. You're not wrong, and where do you think all the people from the PI went to when they couldn't get jobs anymore? I think the PI still exists as like a blog for one old dude. I think it's still kind of out there. But yeah, at least with The Stranger, I know what their biases is. Oh, by the way, I've got 2 stories about the Seattle Times a little bit later in the show for you, exposing their bias. For all of you who say their editorial board is so conservative, they just released a whopper, an absolute whopper. But let's focus on things closer to home, my friends. Carleen Johnson is going to be joining us up next to give us the latest on the legislature, and was another lawmaker caught being under the influence. Tell you all about it when we come back. You're listening to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. With only a few days left to the legislative session, the question is, how many problems, how much trouble can the Democrats who are in power cause? Joining us now to discuss the latest of all this insanity on the Warrior Injury Law studio line, the investigative journalist, the political reporter, the one who keeps an eye on the Washington State Legislature because so many other media outlets are denied press passes, the one and only Carlene Johnson. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Hi, Ari. Yeah, man, we're still talking lots about the income tax, but maybe it's dead, huh? Maybe it's Tuesday, late day Tuesday, we got word that Senate Bill 6346, the millionaire's tax, which most of us think would eventually trickle down to apply to everyone's income in the state of Washington. Word broke late Tuesday that Governor Ferguson apparently sent supporters and donors, because maybe you're always campaigning, sent a letter out that said there might not be enough support, quote, we want to get this just right. So it might have to be pushed off till the 2027 session. So that was a pretty big deal.
All right, let's stop right there for a second, okay? When I was running for office, one of my political consultants, and I've got lots to say about political consultants, but one of my political consultants sent out an email 3 days before the election. We need your money. And if we don't get this money, Ari can't run for office. Okay. That's the email that went out. So something tells me this is a face-saving effort. Also, this is something to be like, hey, I'm fighting for you, and I hear what you're saying. Because last year, he said we can't tax our way out of this, and they signed the largest tax increase in Washington state history. So why should we believe him this time?
Well, and I don't doubt that there's some truth in your point that you're making here. And I have felt like from the beginning, of course, he's talking with the majority members, of course, and crafting this, right? Everybody knows, hey, you're going to come out with, say, this much, and then I'm going to push back and say, no, I want more tax relief in the bill. And then we're going to fix it a little bit in the other chamber, but I'm going to still say it's not enough. And then now you got the business community, the big tech guys that came out this week and said, don't do this, or we're, going to stifle innovation. Maybe he's legitimately responding to big tech's concerns, especially after the House version of the bill yanked out the early, B&O tax hike for large corporations. Maybe they didn't like that. I don't know. I'm waiting to find out. His office told me we don't have a copy of the letter that the governor sent out. And I'm like, well, what do you mean you don't have a copy of the letter? And they said, well, it probably went out from his campaign.
All right. So there we go. Yeah. A political consultant sent this sucker out. That's probably what happened, would be my guess, right?
Well, and then we'll wait and find out. What I found fascinating, though, is this morning, Washington Policy Center and Todd Myers sent a lengthy one sheet that looked back at Senator Manka Dhingra, who's, championing this. She's one of the co-sponsors of the millionaire's tax. She apparently, when she was running in 2017, was asked over and over and over again her stance on, at the time, Seattle's head tax being considered and an eventual income tax. And no, would never support a statewide income tax, wouldn't do it. And in fact, right now, today, on her campaign page, she's up for re-election, her campaign page, on a Q&A section, somebody asked her straight up, do you support the income tax? And she said, no, I do not support, never have, and do not support a statewide income tax. So, Ari, how does that jive with her public statements in favor of this bill?
Because they're going to keep up with the lie that this isn't an income tax, it's just a millionaire tax. They wanted the way out. But I think that the majority of Washingtonians have seen through this lie, and I think the people working against it has been so effective that nobody thinks this is actually a millionaire's tax.
I completely agree. I mean, I've heard the callers on your show. I mean, people aren't stupid. Mm-hmm. They know exactly what this is paving the way towards. And of course, the majority, even the governor, has been very careful to say, well, I wouldn't want to hold a future legislature to, anything that we would pass here. So that's why we're not putting that language in the bill that says it could never be, trickled down to Joe Normal. Nobody buys it.
Yeah, nobody does. Okay, so that's the income tax. We see what direction that's going in. What other news is there out of Olympia? Any other drunken legislatures? Is there any other action going on in the legislature? Perhaps the bar's closed temporarily and we can get some work
Well,
done?
apparently, found out that Representative Jamila Taylor, there were some rumors circulating earlier this week that when she got pulled over last week that there might have been something like that going on. But according to her office and according to I know you were digging around on this a little bit too, Ari. It sounds like at this point they're saying it was just a speeding ticket. And the reason why there's a court case, a number attached to it is that, she might fight this in court, maybe plead it down or something. But so that was kind of exciting for a minute. But no more drunken lawmakers that I'm aware of.
Bummer. Okay. That makes it so much more fun because only a drunken lawmaker would pass the insanity we're seeing in front of us. All right. What else is out there? What else is out there?
So there's a bill that is likely to come up on the Senate floor. If not today, probably tomorrow because it's on the calendar to be pulled at any time, and it's already passed the House. And this is HB 2347. This is billed by supporters, and it even got a lot of Republican support, to sort of be a check on this community reinvestment program. And I know you've talked about this on your show, and I've joined you to discuss it before. This is the fraud that's been going on in these race-based programs. The Tacoma Urban League, Seattle Urban League, lots of basically self-dealing going on.
Mm-hmm.
And supposedly this bill is going to put some checks and balances in. The problem I see with the bill is that the group that's going to be looking at commerce and looking at some of these other, NGOs that are responsible for doling out this money, it's going to be the Washington Public Policy Institute folks, a very left-leaning organization, Ari.
Mm-hmm.
And so I am concerned. I want to know, how are you going to make sure you're going to just, talk to these folks at Commerce who, were responsible for some of this? I would say, if they didn't know about the self-dealing, they should have. Let's just put it that way. Are you just going to trust their word?
No.
Are you going to go out and meet with these organization leaders and make sure that, you didn't give $300,000 home loan to your daughter or your sister or your nephew's brother's uncle's dentist? I mean, there's not supposed to be those kind of connections. And I don't think this bill is an answer, although it did get all but 2 Republican support in passing the first chamber. So we'll see. We'll see.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. I think that this is just going to be something that they're going to try and do and say it to save face, but I'm not sure this is really, I've kind of given up hope for the Washington State Legislature, but thanks to our audience, thanks to people like you holding them accountable, we have managed to stop a lot of really, really bad bills. So I really want to thank you, Carlene. Just as the session's winding down, and I'm sure we'll have you on next week as the session concludes, really want to thank you for bringing a spotlight to all this stuff and revealing so much of this insanity, because otherwise nobody would be paying attention. They'd be doing whatever they wanted.
Well, it's true. It's true. And quick tease for a story I'm working on for tomorrow. Puget Sound Energy has asked for permission to give a 30% rate increase by 2030. And we're finding out that a whole heck of a lot of that is because of Olympia's policies related to the Climate Commitment Act and other clean energy mandates. 30% increase in the next few years, sorry.
Oh, great. I remember it was our governor, Bob Ferguson, when he was Attorney General, who wanted to hide that information from the consumers and, in fact, told Puget Sound Energy to do it. And when I filed a public disclosure request, it looked like a barcode because everything was blacked out and redacted.
I remember that. Oh,
insane.
man.
Insane.
Well, we're going to keep trying to expose it, Ari. Thanks for letting me join you.
Thanks. Such a pleasure to have you. That's Carlene Johnson. You can catch all of her work over at the Center Square and over on social media. We got a whole lot more to discuss as the show continues. You're listening to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. Welcome back to the Ari Hoffman Show. Just a reminder, we have a giveaway today. Your chance to win 2 advanced screening tickets to see Universal Pictures' Reminders of Him, the highly anticipated film adaptation from best-selling author Colleen Hoover. It's going to be March 10th at 6:15. All you have to do, in order to be entered to win these fantabulous prizes, head on over to kvi.com, go to the contests page, and there you can sign up and enter for your chance to win. For those of you who haven't been following this story, I got to catch everybody up a little bit. You might remember earlier in this legislative session, I went down to Olympia, and I was going to be down there, and I said, hey, you know what? Let me get a press pass. Now, I had heard rumors that the Democrats were going to deny me a press pass, which is beyond ridiculous, given the fact that I'm almost never down there. I mean, Kevin, what do I go down there? Once a year, maybe, if that? That's it?
Something like that, yeah.
Something like that. This year I've been twice. All right, once to testify on something I really, really cared about, and one time to broadcast from the legislature. Those are the only 2 times I've been down there. Well, what happens? They say, no press pass for you. The Democrats in the Washington State House say, no way, Hoffman, we're not giving you a press pass, which is really, really weird. I mean, really, you guys are just giving me content for the show. Really do appreciate it. Freedom of the press mean anything to you guys? I don't even know why I was on their radar for this. Oh, sure I do. Because I'm one of the people who exposes their insanity, like them getting drunk in the legislature, you alcoholics. So what happens? They say no press pass for you. I reach out to the Citizen Action Defense Fund, to our friend Jackson Maynard, and I say, hey, dude, can you help me out? He says, no problem. Come on over to my office. So while Zach and I were down there broadcasting for the day, oh, yeah, they gave Zach a press pass. They gave my wife, who works for a different outlet, a press pass. No press pass for Ario.
I should have just got one just for funsies.
By the way, I want you to do that now. Now I kind of want you to do that. Can you do me a favor? We'll get everybody around here. Just apply for a press pass. Do we have anybody who has nothing to do? Where's the janitor guy?
I was going to say
that little
guy,
old man who just comes on in here and empties the garbage cans. Let's have him do it. Yeah, just get everybody a press pass. No problem. Zach got one. My wife got one. Not me. So we file a case against the Washington Democrats, the Washington House Democrats, and basically the Washington State Capitol Correspondents Association. What do you know? As soon as this happens, Brandy Cruz, Jonathan Cho go, I wonder if they're going to do the same thing to us. And they had the occasion to be down there. And guess what? They also said no press passes for them. Now with Brandy, it's even weirder. Brandy, Bob Ferguson lets her ask him questions, gets to go to his press conferences. She gets to go to the Senate, but nope, not letting you over there with the House. We don't want any of you rabble-rousers over there. We don't want to talk to any of you. Now, I was really looking forward to Friday. Why? Because I was going to have a hearing on this, because now me, Brandy Cruz, and Jonathan Cho are all part of the same lawsuit with the Citizen Action Defense Fund. And I actually joked when I heard that this hearing was going to be on Friday. I said, oh, great, now I have to go to the dry cleaner. Okay, I go through a lot of button-down shirts. I go through a lot of suits because of the Sabbath. I'm wearing at least 2 suits a week and at least 4 or 5 shirts a week. It's a lot of dry cleaning. And with Stake of the Union, that threw off my cycle. That means another shirt. That means another suit. Threw off the whole cycle. So I'm like, crud. Now I got to go to the dry cleaner. I was all excited. I said to the dry cleaner, can you have it ready by Thursday so I can have it ready to go by Friday? No problem. And then what do I find out? There's not going to be a hearing on Friday. Why? Because they moved for this case to be kicked over to the feds. Now, in my opinion, why are they doing this? Well, as we just said with Carlene Johnson, we know the session's almost over. If they get a hearing before the end of the session and the hearing goes the other way, they're going to have to let us in. What's happening is they're trying to stall till the end of the session so they could do something like, oh, well, you know, we're going to rewrite the rules because of all this. They're just trying to keep us out. And they will rewrite the rules so that we don't get to go, and they'll publish them somewhere, even though they've never done any of that before. Just watch. That's what's going to happen. This is a stalling tactic for the end of the session. That's what they're trying to do. Oh, so what happens? Is the Citizen Action Defense Fund filed a restraining order this morning. I'm just going to read from their press release because it does a better job with all the legality than I ever could. The Citizen Action Defense Fund has filed an emergency temporary restraining order on behalf of plaintiffs Ari Hoffman, Brandy Cruz, and Jonathan Cho in their lawsuit against the legislature. The order seeks to have a federal court grant each of them press credentials after the legislature denied them access, a violation of state and federal constitutions. The filing of the TRO, temporary restraining order, follows a flurry of activity in the case in the days leading up to the scheduled and now canceled hearing in Thursday County Superior Court Friday, March 6. On Monday, March 2nd, a mere 4 days before the hearing, defendants removed the case to a federal court in Tacoma in the Western District of Washington, which had the effect of canceling the hearing on that motion that was pending in state court. As a result, a federal judge will now decide whether the press passes will be granted on an emergency basis in the final days of the session. The complaint is clear. The legislature's credentialing scheme improperly delegates authority to a private entity without clear standards or procedural safeguards and allows viewpoint-based exclusion of journalists. Defendants relied on unpublished, vague, and inconsistently applied criteria informed in part by recommendations from the Washington State Capitol Correspondents Association in denying access to the House floor. The complaint asserts violations of the First Amendment of the U.S. Constitution, Article 1, Section 5 of the Washington Constitution, state and federal due process protections, Washington's non-delegation doctrine. Quote, freedom of the press is not subject to unpublished standards or private gatekeeping, said Jackson Maynard, Citizen Action Defense Fund executive director and lead counsel on the case. The Constitution requires transparency, viewpoint neutrality, and due process. No matter what court the case is in, we will fight for the freedom of the press and work to ensure they are able to inform the public of what the government is doing. The fact that they are doing this nonsense still and so desperate to do it, oh, and by the way, using your taxpayer dollars to pay for it, they kick this out to some other law firm. The attorney general has 900 lawyers working for him, and he hired a private woke Seattle law firm for the case. This is how desperate they are to get us not to cover the legislature. Absolutely crazy. Speaking of crazy, by the way, the Seattle Times is losing their minds over Donald Trump taking out the Ayatollah. I'll tell you about the article they just published when we come back. You're listening to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. Welcome to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI, your home for the politically homeless, streaming live at KVI.com and the KVI app. If you want to be part of the most dangerous show on the airwaves, give us a call or a text at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. Coming up this hour, more chances to win fantabulous prizes. Plus, also, Jasmine Crockett is finally out of Congress. We'll tell you what happened in last night's primaries. But before we get to any of that, I am so tired of people telling me, well, the Seattle Times editorial board is so conservative. It's the rest of the paper that's really liberal. Spare me your nonsense. First of all, editorial board. Do you need to understand how a newsroom works? Okay, for those of you who haven't seen Superman, Perry White is the editor of the Daily Planet. And he says, Lane, I want you to write about this. And Lois Lane goes, no, Chief, I'm working on this. And he goes, Lois, I told you I want you to work on this. Lois Lane should have been fired like 1,000 times by now. Okay, easy. And then he goes, all right, Lois Lane isn't listening to me. Where's Clark Kent? Where is he? I can't find him anywhere. Olson, have you seen Clark Kent? No, haven't seen him, Chief. Well, when you see him, tell him I want him to do the story that Lane won't. Okay, that's not how real life works. Real life works. Your editor says to you, I want you to write this story. And you say, sure, Chief, no problem. How do I know this? Because I also do writing for the Post Millennial. And every day after the show, my editor has a list of stories sitting there for me. Hoffman, I want you to write these stories. No problem, Chief. I'm also going to write this, and this. Only if you finish those other stories, Hoffman. Okay, but my stories are better. I don't care, Hoffman. I want you to write these stories. I'm exaggerating all this. That's not actually how it goes. Normally they go, can you write these stories? I say, yes, I'd also like to write these. No problem. Piece of cake. But in a normal newsroom, you write what is given to you by your editor. So the Seattle Times editorial board is the one who's assigning and editing the insanity you're seeing in the Seattle Times. Stop telling me they're conservative. Now, they sent out an email a little while ago, which made me have to go click the stupid link to see what stupidity they're talking about today. Here's what it is. I expected this to be something from the Washington Post. I expected this to be something from the New York Post. Excuse me, the New York Times. I expected this to be something from the Associated Press. Nope, they wrote this. Here's the headline. Ready for this? Let's just do this. Congress should vote to end Trump's active war in the Middle East. Okay, number one, guys, the email came out after the War Powers Act. If you wanted anybody to read your stupid article, you probably should have sent it this morning. But number two, let's carry on here from the conservative Seattle Times editorial board. Now the President, Donald Trump, has launched a sprawling war against Iran without congressional consent. Congress must do its duty and check his action. Okay, when was the last time Congress declared war on anybody? Anybody know? Can I put a survey out to anybody here? Anybody know? Mr. KVI doesn't know. 1942. 1941 with well, it's actually 1942 technically, but 1942 for World War II after Pearl Harbor. That was the last time. So wait, you're telling me we didn't have a declaration of war for Korea, for Vietnam, for anything in the Persian Gulf, for any of that afterwards? Check yourself before you wreck yourself, guys. A vote on a War Powers resolution is expected March 4th in the Senate. A House version is expected also. Yeah, all that kind of happened, and you guys kind of missed it. Sponsored by U.S. Senator Tim Kaine of Virginia, the resolution would order the removal of armed forces from hostilities within or against Iran that have not been authorized by Congress. All this is failing, by the way. All this failed. Since Trump took his second oath of office, here we go. Here we go. Who's ready for Seattle Times insanity? He has taken our nation to the brink of authoritarianism. Guys, can you come up with something new, please? This is getting boring. And the Republican-controlled House and Senate congressional leaders have stood almost idly by. This has got to stop. All right, Seattle Times people, I know you think you're important. Nobody in D.C. is reading the Seattle Times, and if they are, they're making fun of it. Make no mistake, Iran has been a state sponsor of terrorism with tendrils reaching into neighboring countries. It is a threat in the region and the rest of the world. So what do you want us to do about it? Did you guys condemn Barack Obama for, I don't know, giving them about, what was it? $1.7 billion? Did you guys condemn him for that at all? Anybody? Did they do that? I don't seem to remember them doing that at all. Do you, Dr. Evil?
How about no?
Okay, so you don't remember them condemning him for that. Did you guys get mad when he went in to Pakistan to take out Osama bin Laden, even though we weren't at war with Pakistan?
How about no?
Okay, so what are we talking about here? Give me a break. Wait, did they get mad about Gaddafi? I don't remember them getting mad when Barack Obama overthrew the government of Libya. Dr. Evil, did they do that?
How about no?
Okay. But it is Congress's role to declare war as prescribed in Article 1, Section 8 of the Constitution. Clearly, you guys need to read more about the war powers, about what the commander-in-chief can or cannot do. All right, here's your spin on it. Blah, 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 blah. Here we go. Trump is acting like a king and an autocrat, said U.S. Representative Adam Smith, the ranking member of the House Armed Services Committee who represents Washington's 9th District. Man, it's a really good thing that he's scheduled to be on the show tomorrow, isn't it? So we can read all this back to him and say, hey, Congressman Smith, you didn't say any of this about Gaddafi. You didn't say any of this about Barack Obama. In fact, it just seems like you don't like Trump very much. Quote, he's not even trying to make the case to the American people or Congress. Do you not watch the press conferences? Do you not see the social media accounts? He decided this on his own. No, he didn't. He decided this with some of our allies, like Israel. The continued expansion of Trump's use of power is very concerning. Oh, by the way, he did check with Congress beforehand. They did inform the Gang of Eight. That's what you do. Should enough Republican members of Congress finally find the resolve to stand with the Democrats and approve the resolution, Trump undoubtedly would veto it. So what are we talking about here? To override the veto, a 2/3 vote would be required, an elusive requirement, given the body is now compromised. Oh, I'm sorry. Did I read that wrong? How the body is now composed. Sorry. I'm just putting words in their mouth, which they really mean. Still, voters deserve to know where their representatives stand on these military attacks. Hey, you mean like the income tax? We deserve to stand, or parental rights? Do you mean that? Or like boys and girls sports? Because I could do this all day long, you lunatics. This is key because the Trump administration's communication around the rationale for war is inconsistent. No, it's not. You can go check the White House website right now. It is very, 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 very consistent. In fact, I've got so many quotes from President Trump saying the exact same thing. We'll just do yesterday's. This is what he said yesterday, and he said the same thing again today. It's not inconsistent at all.
Mr. President, did Israel force your hand to launch these strikes against Iran? Did Netanyahu pull the United States into this war?
No, I might have forced their hand. You see, we were having negotiations with these lunatics, and it was my opinion that they were going to attack first. They were going to attack. If we didn't do it, they were going to attack first. I felt strongly about that. And we have great negotiators, great people that do this very successfully and have done it all their lives very successful. And based on the way the negotiation was going, I think they were going to attack first. And I didn't want that to happen. So if anything, I might have forced Israel's hand. But Israel was ready and we were ready, and we've had a very, very powerful impact.
Okay. This is what he said a little bit later on. You tell me if this sounds inconsistent at all.
Well, because it happened all very quickly. We thought, and I thought maybe more so than most, I could ask Marco, but I thought we were going to have a situation where we were going to be attacked. They were getting ready to attack Israel. They were getting ready to attack others. You're seeing that right now. And a lot of those missiles that are hitting in, those are stationary. Those were aimed there for a long period of time at these other countries. So I think I was right about that. We attacked first. And if we didn't, it could have been, look, we're really decimating them. They're being decimated. And if we didn't, and by the way, we have massive amounts of ammunition. We have the high end. A lot of it was given away stupidly by Biden, very stupidly, for free. And I'm all for Ukraine, but they gave away a lot. As you know, when I give away ammunition, everybody pays for it. The European Union's paying for it. Then they can do what they want with it, but they are giving it, let's say, to Ukraine, and it's okay. But we gave away a lot of high end, but we have plenty. But we have unlimited middle and upper ammunition, which is really what we're using in this war. And we have really an unlimited supply. We also have a lot of the very high end stored in different countries throughout the world. We're literally storing it there, which is actually something that I insisted on in my first term. I rebuilt the military in my first term.
Okay, how many times have we heard him give this speech? How many times have we heard him give this exact same speech right there in the middle? I rebuilt the military. I rebuilt the military. The military was nothing before me. Joe Biden, he's the worst. He destroyed the whole thing. I love the military. I gave them money. They're the best. They love me because I gave them money. This is the same stuff we hear all the time. Tell me again about him being inconsistent. You can read this stuff on the White House website. You can see it on the White House social media. Caroline Leavitt is saying the exact same stuff from the podium in the White House press office, press room. The exact same stuff as President
Something had to be done. And it's been 47 years. They've been killing people all over the world for a long time. They were the kings and fathers of the roadside bomb. Soleimani, we killed him last term. If we didn't, I think it might be a different story today. They would have been much stronger and smarter than they are. But they did the roadside bombs. 95% of the people lost their legs, arms, had their face wiped out, just wiped out. I've seen some young people that it's so sad to watch. And
this is the same stuff he talks about all the time, the young people dying. He wants to stop the young people from dying. Here's where the Seattle Times really gets it wrong. In 2024, candidate Trump promised to be the president of peace. Within months this year, he ordered attacks on two countries, removed their leaders. Meanwhile, the war in Ukraine, which Trump promised he'd end in just one day, rages on. I like how they inconveniently leave out the other wars he stopped, getting the hostages home, and that, no, he didn't say he's going to be the president of peace. He said he was going to do peace through strength, and that's exactly what he's been doing. It seems like these guys are really just mourning the Ayatollah. Isn't that what it sounds like to you? Because that's what it sounds like to me. Oh, also, let's not forget the fact that they've taken out so many terrorist leaders, including the ones who tried to assassinate him. That's right, they got them today also. U.S. Senator Patty Murray says what this president is doing is taking us into a war of choice without consulting Congress. He's basically taking us into a war and declaring it on his own. You say anything about Gaddafi? You say anything about possibly starting a war with Pakistan, by the way? No, of course not. Oh, please spare me your nonsense. All the Seattle Times editorial page editors, the Seattle Times editors, this is why we do not listen to them. This is why you should unsubscribe from the Seattle Times. Let's not forget also, they were down in Olympia advocating for your tax money to fund their dying outlet. You want to keep giving them money? You don't want to do that. Cancel your subscription to the Seattle Times. We go to the Warrior Injury Law studio line, take a call from Caleb in Maple Valley. Caleb, what's up, man?
Hey, so I just wanted to let your viewers know that this Iraq thing has been going on for a lot longer than a lot of people realize, and more recent history. So
you mean Iran? Iran, not Iraq, right?
Iran. I'm sorry, Iran.
No
Iran.
problem. Yeah,
you're correct.
Okay.
I am an Iraq war veteran.
Thank you.
I was an infantryman in Iraq, and in the U.S. Army, and I deployed to Iraq in 2011. During my time there, we were attacked almost daily with Iranian-supplied munitions. At night, you could hear Iranian drones flying overhead, giving targeting information to the terrorists that were local. But because of the rules of engagement at the time, our air assets weren't allowed to engage them. Additionally, we ran into a lot of IEDs and other sorts of munitions that were being smuggled from Iran. There were two other instances. One, we were actually stood up on alert because we were in Al-Amara, which is quite close to the border of Iraq and Iran, where potentially a local insurgent group with embedded IRGC members that potentially would have attacked our base that night. We were lucky that they didn't attack. Another mission we had was there was a Iranian consulate in Alamara where intelligence knew that Allied forces had been tortured and killed at that location. Our mission was to go there with cadaver dogs and see if we could recover any of those bodies. And so this was in 2011 in Iraq. And a lot of people don't realize, like, during our war in Iraq, hundreds of U.S. troops have been killed due to Iranian either supplied munitions or backed terrorists.
Right. And they don't want to talk about it at all. So first of all, Caleb, thank you for your service. And thank you for that very, very important piece of historical knowledge that we all need to know. What years were you over there?
I was there in 2011.
You were there in 2011. Okay. This has been going on since even long before that. You know this, Caleb. I mean, this has been going on since 1979. But people seem to block all that out and forget that what's been happening over the last, hang on, let's do some quick math here. When Biden was in office was 4 years. When Trump was in office 4 years before that. And then 2 terms of Obama, you're looking at 16 years where you had Iran doing all this. And for 12 of those 16 years, our government was funding Iran. One of the first things Joe Biden did, one of the first things he did was reinstitute the money that Trump had cut off that Barack Obama was giving them. Go ahead.
And I think the thing that upsets me the most is our government knew that, you know, we were fighting Iran by proxy during our war in Iraq, but you would never hear about it on the news, ever. No one was reporting that.
No, and of course, I think it's actually because a lot of people don't know what a proxy war is. So I had to explain this to a lot of people when we were talking about the Israel stuff. I said, Iran is the head of the snake. Iran is funding Hamas. Iran is funding Hezbollah. Iran is funding ISIS. Iran is funding the Houthi rebels. And Israel is fighting all of them right now. And this has always been a war against Iran. Why is Iran on the list right now? Because they're the ones who could start it all over again, and they were rebuilding in order to do so. The fact that Hezbollah tried to get in on the action, why would they be stupid enough to do that after Operation Grim Beeper and how they've been totally decimated? In fact, you see the citizens of Lebanon are fleeing from the cities because they know that Hezbollah is going to drag them into trouble again. Caleb, so many people just don't understand this stuff, right?
No, well, not just they don't understand, they don't even know because no one talks about it.
Exactly right. Well, Caleb, God bless you. God bless your fellow service members, and thank you so much for sharing your story with us today and your perspective. Really do appreciate it.
Thank you.
Yeah, always a pleasure. I mean, the amount of stuff that people don't know is going on. What do we know? We know our little bubble. We know what affects us in our lives. And so many people don't even know. Here's one for you. Who's the president of Mexico? Anybody know the president of Mexico? Put that one out there without Googling it. Send it on over to me right now. Who's the president of Mexico? Anybody?
I can see her, but I can't think of her name.
I bet most people right now went, wait, it's a her? It's a her? Yeah. Okay, here's one for you. Some people might know this one. Who's the Prime Minister of Canada? Who's the Prime Minister of Canada? Some people might know that. Mark Carney. By the way, he said the dumbest thing today ever. He's mad because the U.S. did not consult international law before doing all this. Oh, boo-hoo. And then he said something to the effect of, well, you should have gone to the UN. The UN has been working for years to try and stop this. Well, why haven't you stopped this? The UN's mission has also been to stop wars, and they haven't done a good job of that. We go back to the Warrior Injury Law studio line. Take a call from George and Kenmore. George, what's up?
Well, back in 88, when we did all this before, like I said, you know, they ran their ships aground because they were firefighting the cluster bombs. There was the East Coast Navy and the West Coast Navy, and you had to have 2 kneeboard cards, basically, card of the day for the call signs.
Mm-hmm.
And the interesting thing was, you might remember Schwarzkopf doing those briefs.
Yeah,
Fabulous
Storm
briefs.
and Norman. Did you ever see this on Saturday Night Live when you had Chris Farley? Chris Farley played him, and he goes, I won Holyfield. You saw what I did in the Gulf. Now watch what I can do in the ring. You remember that?
No, I'm going to have to look that up.
Now you got to look that up. It was great. Go ahead, Schwarzkopf. Yes.
But here's the deal. Tommy Franks, you might recall, the next time we went in, rewrote the battle plan because the guys out of Homestead Air Force Base, the Admiral Cooper right now, that's the Joint Command that owns the Mid East. Just as Fort Lewis is First Corps is the people that own Korea. That's why MASH always talked about that. Well, anyway, there was air tasking orders, which was a big deal, and he'd show the battle damage assessment and all that, CNN, But the coolest thing was he had Operation Plan 2005. Op Plan 2005 was the name of the plan to take out Iraq. And they basically, back then we had Word Perfect and Word, and they had to global replace, the Q with an N. And, it was kind of hilarious. And even one time my brother had to fly an F-18 into the base at Riyadh and get the air tasking order on his personal laptop, which you couldn't do now. You'd go to jail. But anyway, he had to fly back to the carrier because the Navy had Word Perfect and the Air Force had Word. And
that's the most bureaucratic nonsense I've ever heard. Sounds so right. Yeah. That's why these systems go. What's your point there, George? I'm running out of time.
Well, no, I'm just saying, everything was totally screwed up back then. Even the Russian fleet was there.
Oh, sure.
And the French and everybody else. And Bush had made a good, or Reagan and Bush both had good consortiums.
Well, we're still dealing with these messes 47 years later, and now they want to try and say, oh, how dare you fix it? How dare you fix it? Crazy stuff. George, appreciate your service. Appreciate the call. Appreciate you being part of the show. You want to be part of the show, you give us a call or text at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. Turning our eyes back to here at home. Jasmine Crockett's going to be out of a job, but also so are some Republicans. We'll tell you what's going on when we come back. You're listening to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KBI. Just a reminder, we are giving away count them two, advanced screening tickets to see Universal Pictures' Reminders of Him, a highly anticipated film adaptation from best-selling author Colleen Hoover. It's going to be March 10th at 6:15. Now, if you want to try and win these fantabulous prizes, make sure you head on over to kvi.com and go to the contests page. That's where you enter for this. And that's where you put in your chance to win. And yes, my friends, it will ask you for personal information. Otherwise, how are we going to know that you entered the contest? You have to make sure to put in your personal information. While you're putting in personal information, sign up to become a KVI Insider so that way you find out about what our next event is going to be, so that way you don't miss out on State of the Union like you did before. What does Representative Jasmine Crockett and a rhino have in common? They're both out of office. Oh, hang on. I'll tell you what I'm talking about. Okay. So according to the Post Millennial, Representative Jasmine Crockett has lost her bid for U.S. Senate in Tuesday night's Texas primaries, with James Tallarico winning the Democratic nomination in the race. As of Wednesday morning, Tallarico received 53% of the vote to Crockett's 46%, with 94% of that reported in, according to NBC. Crockett conceded on Wednesday morning, saying in a statement, "This morning I called James." Oh, you know what's funny about this? Her accent's gone. So you know how she puts on an accent? When she was conceding, all of a sudden her accent was gone, erased from existence. She said this morning, "I called James to congratulate him on becoming the Senate nominee. Texas is primed to turn..." Texas is primed to turn blue. I don't think Texas is primed to turn blue. Look, we may not do well in the midterms. I don't think Texas is going to be turning blue anytime soon. And congratulate him on becoming a Senate nominee. So, I'm sorry, I missed that one. And united, because this is bigger than any one person, is about the future of 30 million Texans and getting America back on track. Oh, hey, Texans, would you like that border reopened again? We could do that. No problem. Let's reopen the border and have all the illegals just streaming across the border. That would be great. I'm committed to doing my part and will continue working to elect Democrats up and down the ballot. You couldn't get yourself elected. What are we talking about here? As polls close in the state, Crockett claimed her opponents were cheating. "We encourage each and every one of you to remain resilient. We cannot allow this type of behavior to be rewarded, because so long as they know that they can win, even if it means cheating." Do you think there was voter fraud because you lost? Is that what you're saying here? Because I heard that people who claim that there's voter fraud are a threat to democracy. I heard they're trying to subvert our democracy. So I guess Jasmine Crockett is actually a threat to democracy. Meanwhile, in this other race, Republican on Republican in the primaries, Representative Dan Crenshaw was defeated Tuesday in the Republican primary in Texas's 2nd Congressional District, ending the 4-term congressman's bid for re-election. Now, I know a lot of people call him a rhino because from time to time he goes against President Trump. He's not on my radar as a problem causer. He's not. Is he on yours? Give us a call or a text at 206-421-5757. Crenshaw, former Navy SEAL, who has represented the district since 2019, lost to businessman and state representative Steve Toth. With roughly 3/4 of the ballots counted, Toth led with about 58% to Crenshaw's 40%. This is a pretty big deal. Now, I don't believe President Trump endorsed either one of them. I think he stayed out of it. Crenshaw was the only incumbent Republican House member in Congress running for re-election who did not receive President Donald Trump's endorsement. Trump did not back a single candidate in the contest. And Crenshaw has at times broken with Trump, including criticizing Trump's refusal to accept the results of the 2020 presidential election. That's all you got, guys? That's it? That's why you're mad at him? I mean, look, am I the biggest fan of Dan Crenshaw? No. Do I think that's a reason to boot him out of office? No, not really. I mean, this is a guy who gave a lot in service to his country. This is a guy who almost went completely blind. So look, whether you like him, whether you don't like him, can we all acknowledge thank you for your service and thank you for serving all these years? I think the name calling isn't really the way to go. When we come back, my friends, University of Washington. Oh, they're not just in trouble because they are not pressing felony charges against the UW 33. Oh, no, they got other problems, including some of their researchers. We'll tell you the latest insanity of what's going on when we come back. You're listening to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. I love our friend Adam Gillette from Accuracy in Media, but if he is visiting your college campus or place of employment or your city, odds are he's not there on vacation. Odds are he's there because you did something wrong. And he was most recently at our very own University of Washington here in beautiful Seattle, and he joins us now on the Warrior Injury Law studio line. Adam, welcome back. What's going on, my friend?
Thank you so much for having me back. Just making friends in Seattle.
Yes, I could tell by the video you just posted to social media from Accuracy in Media how quickly you're making friends. Why don't we start at the top about what triggered your visit to the Emerald City?
Sure. And, we joke, but this is quite serious. A UW researcher posted in response to AIM staff member Corey DeAngelis, who's a school choice activist. The UW researcher responded to Corey's post by saying, "May there be Tyler Robinsons for you all." Tyler Robinson, of course, is the alleged murderer of Charlie Kirk. So a UW researcher working in a medical facility, supposedly focused on helping people, is instead calling for the assassination of those he disagrees with.
Charming. Absolutely charming. So what kind of research is this person doing over there for University of Washington? Sociology, criminology, gender? What are they actually researching over there?
I hope not bullet casings. Mara works in the medical research building. I'm not exactly sure what the work Mara does is. And, of course, after this statement was made, there was outrage because you brought it up, other people brought it up, and the university promised to act. But as always, they did nothing. We heard crickets from them. They said they would investigate. We haven't heard any results. And maybe they're saying, well, we'd like to handle it internally. You can't. You're a taxpayer-funded university. We're paying taxes in Washington and nationally for this university, so you owe it to the taxpayers to let us know what's happening. And as you know, this is a university with a history of violence. You had the Super UW group that was literally selling Hamas T-shirts, took over a building, and did over $1 million in damages to the building because Boeing donated the money for the building. That same group, by the way, over the weekend was sharing the Death to America tweet on social media. So a university with a history of violence, a medical researcher calling for assassination, and the university did nothing.
Now, as I understand, this medical researcher might have their own personal horse in the race of not liking Charlie Kirk. I understand they seem to be a little politically motivated because of how they identify. Would you say that's the case as well?
Well, yes. Corey DeAngelis was posting in response to someone else about boys and girls sports and said that, a comment about there being biological differences between boys and girls. And Marimon, the researcher, is trans. So I guess he or she was personally offended by it. But I'll be honest with you. I don't care if you're a he or a she or both. There's never a good excuse to call for assassination.
Have you heard anybody on the other side of the political aisle calling this out? Because I looked around and I didn't see much from the mainstream media here in Seattle, but I'm not surprised by any of that. It takes you doing over $1 million worth of damage, and they still have a hard time describing who was actually responsible for that. So I didn't see a lot in the local Seattle media or national media aside from conservative media. Have you seen anything?
I've seen about as much from them as I've seen from the university administration, which is nothing, desperately craning their neck to look the other way. And this is a major problem because, again, we should be able to respectfully disagree about things without calling for violence. And when someone calls for violence, I don't care what their ideology is. That's wrong, and I'm going to call them out for it. It's entirely unacceptable. Yet we now have an entire generation of young people who've been raised on DEI and who've been taught that it's morally justifiable to call for violence against a member of the oppressor class. After all, that's merely resistance to oppression. So they not only call for violence or engage in violence, they think they're morally justified in doing so because of the things they've learned since kindergarten.
Yeah, this is pretty frightening that the university won't do anything about it, and it's yet just another step. Now, mind you, they have a new president over there at the university who said they're turning over a new leaf and things are going to start changing, but I haven't seen any changes over there regarding this kind of stuff. I mean, let's not forget, we had our friends from Turning Point USA hold an event on campus trying to keep boys out of girls' sports, and the lunatics, the same lunatics who are involved in all the violent stuff, showed up, tried to shut down the event, pulled the fire alarms, et cetera, et cetera. So for me, I don't have a lot of confidence that things are moving in a different direction. Do you?
No, the only way that people are going to be held accountable at the University of Washington is by accuracy in media doing it, it seems, by people like you talking about it, it seems, because we cannot expect ever these radicals running the university to deliver accountability. And with the frequency with which this occurs, one has to now think that it's not that they're inept, but rather that they're in on it, that they're not bothered by calls for violence as long as it's in the right direction. And that's why, as I say, it's incumbent upon us to deliver accountability. And that's why I decided to visit Merriman's research facility with a cameraman and a microphone, as anybody would do in that situation, and give Mara the opportunity to apologize firsthand. Mara wasn't very happy to see me. Mara declined the opportunity to apologize, and Mara ran away.
Yeah, and then you got thrown out of the building, which was just the icing on the cake of this whole thing. Before we let you go, so you've been doing this at a lot of college campuses, calling people out. And I look around and I saw a lot of fear when the Trump administration first came to office that they were going after a lot of these colleges. But after they were done with the Ivies, it seemed like that kind of petered off where I haven't heard much about it. And it seems like even the Ivies are getting emboldened again to start this nonsense. Is that what you're seeing also?
You know, it's funny. It kind of varies because we've been doing hidden camera investigations into universities in red states that have DEI bans where the administrators are entirely ignoring them. And it varies by the state. When we release these hidden camera investigations in North Carolina showing law-breaking administrators, they get fired every time. We've had a half dozen administrators across the state of North Carolina who lost their job after appearing in one of our videos. And these aren't entry-level people. One of them was the dean of students at UNC Asheville, lost her job after appearing in our video. 2 weeks ago, another staffer lost their job. In other states like Iowa, they now just strengthened their DEI law in response, I would say, in part, due to the videos that we've released there. Ohio is talking about doing the same thing. So that's nice to see. Now, as you allude to, on the other hand, over the weekend, Columbia University, which regularly battles the University of Washington for the most violent, anti-American, anti-Semitic university, a student coalition at Columbia University posted Mag Bar America, which is Persian for death to America. So, as anybody would do, we set up ColumbiaHatesAmerica.com, where you could see the names of all of the leaders of the student organizations that have been members of this coalition that called for death to America. Now, the coalition has since become anonymous because they don't want to have any accountability, so it's hard to say who's still active in it now, but everyone at ColumbiaHatesAmerica.com is confirmed to have been a leader of an organization within this coalition, which has been promoting violence, to be clear, for several years now.
Adam Gillette from Accuracy in Media, thank you so much for joining us today. Really do appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
Always a pleasure. We got a whole lot more to discuss as the show continues. You're listening to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. Only good news to wrap up another amazing episode of the Ari Hoffman Show right here on Talk Radio 570 KVI. And today we got a lot of local good news, by the way, being featured in national outlets, which is a surprise because normally it's all the bad news and the awful things that Seattle and Washington do that get featured in the national outlets. So this is good stuff. This one here starts bad, but I promise it's got a good ending. From Fox News, a skier buried for hours in an avalanche in Washington State last week was saved after his wife followed her feeling that something was wrong when he failed to answer his phone. Michael Harris was skiing Big Chief Bowl at Stevens Pass when he was caught in the slide. Now, here's the thing. I've never actually been to Stevens Pass. Mount Baker and Stevens, I've never skied them before. My preferred mountains are Crystal if I'm going locally, and if I'm taking people for lessons, Snoqualmie. I know, it's gone a little crazy recently. It's not as good as it used to be. It's a little bit of a zoo. Of course, Whistler's the best thing in our area, but I don't want to drive 6 hours, and that means I have to go to Canada. Harris told Fox 13 that his skis got caught between two slabs and he was unable to fight against the force of the slide. He said he avoided a boulder and described sliding down into a snow hole that allowed him to stay upright despite being completely buried. You know the James Bond movie, The World Is Not Enough, with Pierce Brosnan? That one, you know how he inflates that giant ball around him for him and the gal from Braveheart surrounds them? Apparently they make those for real now. That's not just a James Bond gadget. Those are for real. He said the sensation was like being encased in cement. At some point, he said, his wife Penny called him, but the compact snow made it impossible for him to move his hands to access his Apple Watch or iPhone in his jacket pocket. He said, I'm a religious guy, and I said, God, I'm in trouble. I don't know if anyone is going to know where I'm at, and I can't get out of this on my own. Well, when he failed to answer his phone, Penny Harris felt the urge to check his location through the Find My iPhone app. She said, you got the feeling something's just not right. So I followed my intuition, saw his location, checked it a couple times, and saw it wasn't moving. Penny Harris said then she called the ski patrol, drove to Stevens Pass. Rescuers used the location tracked by the app to find Harris buried beneath several feet of snow. Harris was rushed to a hospital for hypothermia, pneumonia, and a contusion to his lung, injuries to his kidneys, and a right tibial plateau fracture, his family said on a post on GoFundMe created to help with his medical bills. He underwent surgery as making a smooth recovery, becoming known around the hospital as the Miracle Avalanche Man. Harris credits his wife and the phone app for saving his life. He said, I was inches away from the thing that could save my life, but I just couldn't get there. And yet because she knew how to use Find My iPhone, I'm here today, he told the outlet. That's really a remarkable, remarkable story. It really, really is. I mean, I know the times I can't find my kids on the mountain. I'm freaking out. Wish we had that stuff back then, but of course I wasn't going to give my kids cell phones. Yeah, I love skiing. I haven't been in far, far too long. Maybe this is just something to tell me to go or not go. Meanwhile, over on the Today Show, a trio of Washington firefighters stepped in to help feed a member of the community when their delivery driver was involved in a car accident. The Central Pierce Fire and Rescue, which serves the communities of Puyallup, Ording, Parkland, Spanaway, South Hill, Frederickson, Graham, and Kapowson? I don't know Kapowson. In Washington, posted a message on Facebook detailing the recent heroics of 3 of its firefighters. The post explained how on Friday, January 9th, at the firefighters' Rescue 66 team responded to a motor vehicle collision involving a driver who was delivering groceries for an Instacart customer. Following the accident, the Instacart driver was uninjured, but their vehicle needed to be towed due to damages. Since the driver lacked transportation, the Instacart delivery was in limbo, so 3 firefighters sprang into action and transported the groceries to the customer. Quote, it was a small gesture that made a big difference for a grateful community member and a reminder that serving our community sometimes means going beyond emergency response. The message included a picture of 3 members of Rescue 66 smiling while holding a paper grocery bag. Facebook users complimented the firefighters in the comments. Now, that's what we call special ops. Way to go, CPFR. Another wrote, that's amazing. Thank you, Rescue 66, for going above and beyond for our community members. A third agreed, writing, great job. Keep up the great work. Something I like to do with our local firefighters, anytime the synagogue has an event and there's lots of leftover food, we like to bring it down to the firefighters. Or sometimes when I get an extra box of donuts or something like that, bring it to the police department, bring it to the firefighters. That's the kind of stuff that always puts a smile on their face. This last good news story is somewhat controversial. It comes to us from Cairo 7. British Columbia announced that the 2026 spring forward will be the last clock change the province ever makes. After clocks advance on March 8th, BC will stop changing them altogether and adopt permanent year-round daylight savings time. Hang on. Is that the one you want to adopt, or you want to adopt the standard time? I always get confused which one people actually want. I know there's one that they just want to stop the changes, but I don't remember which one we want to be on. Yeah, I just know every year around, well, actually I should say 6 months ago, is when I start getting all depressed, right? In November.
We got Jeff Pogula in the studio here. You can speak to it. Which is the one, Jeff? Okay, he's going to come in there and explain.
Oh, Jeff is coming in here. He's coming over to the studio.
Minutes, so,
there we go. We got 3 minutes to kill here. So Jeff is going to come wandering over here. Close the door, close the door, close the door. There you go. Stepping into my studio right here. All right, Jeff, which one do we want?
I couldn't hear you in the control room. I don't have headphones.
So joining us now in studio, Jeff Pogula, our senior political correspondent for our sister station, Northwest News Radio.
I identify as a correspondent, not a reporter.
I've been working on it. It only took me 5 years to get this right. Okay, so for daylight versus standard, which is the one you want to stay on? Doesn't it get worse if you stay on one versus the other? Let's go with you. Sure.
I would say probably for me, daylight saving time.
Daylight savings is the one you want.
Yeah. Well, let's be clear. There is. Since we're in the Pacific time zone, you have Pacific Standard Time, Pacific Daylight Time.
Yes.
Daylight time is what we have in the summer. Standard is what we have in the winter.
Yeah, but wasn't standard what we had before we said, hey, let's do this daylight savings time business?
Saving. It's not savings.
No. It's a bank account in my pocket.
You're not putting the time into
it away. I get to put it away for later.
That is a pet peeve of mine.
That means I can stay up an hour later that night knowing that I'm going to recoup it the next day even though I don't
Well, yes, I guess for Fridays, for you and fellow members of the Jewish faith, it makes a big difference.
Yeah. Actually, I have to go back and double check because there's you're going to find this fascinating. There's mathematical problems depending on which one they pick about what time morning services are. Will we still be able to go to them before going to work? See, this is okay. So how do you feel? Should we get rid of it or not?
Well, if you're my feeling, just for simplicity's sake, and again, this is just me personally, I'm not speaking on behalf of anyone or any government agency. For simplicity's sake, pick one and stick with it rather than this flip back and forth all the time.
Okay. Well, no matter what, some people's VCR...
One requires congressional approval, one does not.
There you go. Some people's VCR is still going to be blinking no matter what time of year they're at.
What's a VCR?
Oh, there's old people who have VCRs, my friend.
I tossed one out in my move just this past weekend.
You threw out a fully functional VCR. How are you ever going to play your VHS tapes? Well, my friends, that's going to do it for us today. Thank you to Jeff Pogula from our sister station, Northwest News Radio. Lots more to discuss tomorrow with more insane stories, more exciting guests. You've been listening to The Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI.